I finished up this model for a friend's birthday. My self-imposed deadline was Friday. The friend was coming over with a group of our friends to play our second session of Draw Steel. Super fun game, by the way. If you're interested in tabletop RPGs at all, I suggest checking it out. After I gave the model to my friend Friday, I found myself over the weekend kind of reflecting on my paint job, on the process, everything that I put into creating this. And that led to me reflecting on who do I do my hobbies for? And I think the simple answer is I do it for myself. I enjoy doing it. I find it relaxing. I find it, in a way, meditative. Once my dog settles down in the evening and I'm just kind of looking for something to do, my hobbies are a way to keep me from doom scrolling or just passively consuming content, even on YouTube. So what I like to do is I'll come down to my hobby desk and I'll usually throw something on to keep my ears busy. Last week while I was painting, I spent some time watching the first episode of Critical Role's Campaign 4 along with a friend. We were both watching at the same time and chatting about what was going on. I think that relaxation is really important. But I think the deeper thing, at least for me, when I'm thinking about who I hobby for, so much of my creativity and expression that I bring to my hobbies, and not just painting, I also enjoy woodworking, and there's some other hobbies I enjoy that have an output to share. I find that I do it for other people, probably more often, maybe 4 out of 5 times. And this isn't a bad thing. I think it's just part of who I am. I express my creativity through these things, and then I get excited, and I want to share those things with my friends, my family, other people, now YouTube, I guess, as this is my second full video. I think it's important, though, when doing a hobby to keep in mind who I'm doing a specific project for. There's plenty of times where I just want to paint something so that I paint, so that I have a moment to slow down and connect with myself while I'm putting a brush to a model. And then there's times where I'm working on something more involved, like this model, or if I'm working on a villain for my Draw Steel or D&D game where I'm running an adventure. And even running those games, there's a certain amount of energy and creativity that goes into doing this for people that I care about. My friends, my family, all the people that enjoy spending this time doing the shared activity and being able to bring something of myself to it. A big part of my hobby is expressing myself and then sharing that part of myself with other people. And I think that's super important. I also need to be conscious as I learn how to recognize this self-reflective part of my creativity that sometimes I don't need to push so hard in getting exactly what I envisioned as the final product. And what I mean by that is, I think when I realized that a lot of my hobby is being creative to then share or give part of myself to other people, there becomes, or there's a risk of putting it too far past the point of just sharing myself and then ascribing self-worth or self-value or just a sense of I need to do this to the best of my ability, otherwise I'm not doing it right. And that's something that I recognize that I struggle with in the stuff that I do. I take a long time to think through a process or to figure out the way to execute something in a manner that I am comfortable showing off to other people. And I think part of the new adventure that I'm starting to do with these videos is teach myself that I don't need to maintain a certain level of execution in order to share. And I've gone back and forth on recording this voiceover and starting over and stumbling over my words. This is the longest one that I've done in a continuous stream of thoughts, and I'm sure I'll edit it down to remove some gaps, dead air, things like that, or just to make it fit. But I think as I'm talking through this, I'm realizing that sharing myself doesn't have to mean that I'm sharing the best, most polished version of myself, because that's the same trap as I need to do this in order for it to have value and show that I have value. Bringing it back to all of these hobby vlogs that people are posting and watching. I've recently started watching Knights of Dice, Viv, come back into the hobby after years and just really finding that joy in expression and sharing and getting excited about doing things. I think that watching these videos, especially these daily vlogs, where people are just enjoying what they're doing and then sharing that joy with others, I think it's still putting it out in the world, and part of it is doing it for yourself and part of it is doing it for other people, but it feels like a healthier version rather than if I put a lot of pressure on myself and I start getting anxious about it, then I'm no longer enjoying what I'm doing, and that will show. So I think one of the goals of doing these videos for myself is to show that more raw, more authentic version and worry less about putting out exactly what I imagine I should. Enjoy your hobby just for yourself. It's good to do your hobby to share it with other people because community is important. But I think it needs to be both, and I think it needs to be a balance. And what that balance is day to day is probably going to change, and it'll change based on the project. But in the end, I think what I'm learning is that while I'm doing these projects, there's a way to do it partly for me and partly for other people where I'm happy with the result either way, where all I'm doing is putting something of myself out into the world. And I think that's important. In the end, with this model, I'm happy with how it turned out. I met my deadline. I met a standard that I was comfortable gifting to a friend of mine. And this is another experience where I'm learning who I am as a result of the creative efforts that I put into my hobby.